right, well, today's meeting to order. It's the second meeting of the Climate Action and Resilience Committee, Monday, May 13th, 2024. I'm Brian May, City Councilor from St. Vital Ward. I'll be chairing today's meeting, joined by a number of city staff as well as our committee members. And we have one of whom is online with us there, is Darcy. Good to have you. Start with the land and water acknowledgement that I'd like to acknowledge we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. We are joined by our clerk, Leah Cowan, as well as Moira Gear from CAO, Deputy CAO Moira. What's your Thank you. What's your title?
It's a long one.
Thank you. As well as Laura, who is of course our coordinator. So minutes, I was going to ask, do we need a motion then to approve the minutes of the previous meeting? One of the committee members could approve, so moved by Joseph. All those in favor? That's carried. We have no delegations, it would appear. All right. This month, I'd hope to have more of a report on our efforts around methane capture at Brady Landfill. Unfortunately, we don't yet. We're still trying to get that to the starting process. We have debated this item at a number of times at Water and Waste Committee, asking staff to try and work things out with the private firm that's out there doing the flaring, IGRS. We're still hoping to get that report. I was very optimistic we'd have it by now. We don't. So more talks with the province, I guess, to try and nail down the methane capture. Certainly hope by our next meeting, which isn't until the autumn, that we've got, I think, or July or autumn or something. Yes, July the 5th. Certainly by then, I would hope we've got something on the methane capture file, because that actually is it. I feel like we've been closed for a number of years now. So, but that's such as it is. It's a more of a report saying I'd hope to have more to report, but I don't. So hopefully we'll soon be across the finish line on the methane capture file. So I'm afraid that is the gist of the report, is that they were still trying to get well, hopefully by July we'll have the methane capture file in better shape and ready to formalize. I don't know, do we need a motion
to receive that
information? Yes. All right. Thank you. Moved by Lisa. All those in favor? That is carried. So report from the committee coordinator.
All right. So I just want to mention that I have included a written coordinator report for the first time. And this is to try to provide extra time for public review and opportunity for community feedback through delegation and questions that can be asked with that time to review, so we can be more engaging. So the committee is in regular email communications and has had 3 working meetings since our February public meeting. And the work completed has been internally focused to set a solid foundation of relationship building, information gathering and sharing, and understanding city and political processes. So I'll just highlight a few examples under those 3 headings. So related to relationship building, we've been working to understand priorities and roles and responsibilities and how CARC can more strategically organize around climate action. Information gathering and sharing activities have included getting more familiar with the Community Energy Investment Roadmap and City Climate Action that has been completed in 2023. The Office of Sustainability is in the project planning stage for the Climate Action Plan update and the development of a climate resilience strategy. And we have shared some early process plans and received feedback from CARC. So those two initiatives are planned to be completed in one project concurrently. And so that's more information will be available as we move forward. So we're project scoping at the moment, and trying to identify how the project can best be completed and how and when to engage internal and external stakeholders and members of the public. So more to come on that. I've also connected with ad hoc committees of council that have citizen members on it, such as Winnipeg Food Council and the Human Rights Committee, to learn from each other, share information, and find synergies between our topics and activities. And just to mention that a number of CARC members attended the virtual Climate West forum on building climate resilience on May 8th and 9th. There was a lot of good information shared there. Related to understanding city and political processes, information updates on the Climate Action and Resilience Committee activities have been shared with the chair and vice chair, as well as the senior management team on climate steering, or senior management team climate steering committee. CARC has monitored council committee processes related to climate change, and due to a few conversations that have come up, I just wanted to reiterate the core functions of CARC, just because we're a relatively new committee still, and it doesn't hurt to see how we, what our core functions are. So the first one is to advise council on climate change issues. So councillors can bring motions forward to Standing Policy Committee, Water, Waste and Environment, and CARC can also initiate advice to council. Support implementation of existing city plans and help shape the climate action plan and development of the resilience strategy. And number 3 is support community work on climate action. So there's a lot that can be accomplished through those 3 main functions. Through our working group meetings, the committee has asked me to explore the development of 3 items: a public communication strategy, a decision-making matrix to help prioritize CARC activities and motions that they might bring forward, and a strategic planning session to further define how to achieve the work plan activities. And in the coming month and a half before our July 5th meeting, I anticipate that we'll explore development of a subcommittee or working group or action team. We'll start building more community relationships and likely participate in more education and training opportunities. That is my report. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Laura. Should have introduced as Laura Rempel, not just Laura. Especially because we have 2 Laura.
I'll ask the first question.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So our first question, I guess, would be in 2022, Community Energy Investment Roadmap of the city identified that to achieve net zero by 2050 for the city of Winnipeg, there'd be a requirement that society in general, or there'd be a societal investment of $800 million per year. And based on that, I guess we wanted to ask whether with the adopted 2024 to 2027 multi-year city budget, which includes some climate supportive actions such as investment in tree canopy expansion and zero emission buses, and a number of other initiatives. The question would be, how much of the current multi-year budget went to climate action, mitigation, and adaptation?
That's a very good question. So in my report, I mentioned that we were monitoring different committee processes, and the budget, multi-year budget process being one of them. And so I think that in the Community Energy Investment Roadmap, It identifies that there are a few tools that can be used in order to, the Climate Lens, which is program 10.2 of SEER, talks about applying a climate lens to expenditures and policies. And so that is something that a tool that hasn't yet been developed, but it could be something that is applied to future budget processes. So I don't think I'm not aware of a breakdown in the multi-year budget, but I think that we do align with Council's Strategic Priorities Action Plan, and one of those themes was green and growing. It was a longer title than that, but green and growing infrastructure, and our Winnipeg policy also has environmental resilience as a sustainable development goal. So there is some thought to alignment with those efforts.
I mean, yeah, I don't have that number. We could probably try and find that number. I voted for the budget. I wasn't on the budget working group. I thought it was unfortunate, especially after Laura's group praised us for putting in money for building retrofits when there was no money for building retrofits, which was unfortunate. I'd like to see that. Again, not being on the working group, it makes it harder to get changes in. So I would hope that appears in the next budget or two. But yeah, it certainly, whatever number, we certainly talked about 50 million, I think, as an item for building retrofits. That wasn't included. I would hope to see it included in the future.
I guess what it might come down to, though, is creating like some system of identifying what city actions that are going toward this, which of them are sort of mitigative, or whatever the word would be, or adaptive, and somehow slotting them so we can then begin to start thinking about what's allocated currently and what maybe would look like other programs would look like in terms of going forward.
Yeah, that makes sense, because that leads to the next question, that is, how does the city currently incorporate and prioritize climate change impacts, the meaningful greenhouse gas reductions, of action or inaction into the budget decisions, no? If that there is a mechanism that can give us this information, no? And yeah, basically, and related what you said, no? Or you, Laura, what would it take to develop and apply a climate lens to processes and decisions on expenditures and policies identified in SEER, no?
I think it's something that's the Office of Sustainability and other actors in the public service can think about. How do we implement SEER, and what are the priorities within that? That can also be integrated into the Climate Action Plan update process, so that we're moving those council approved policies forward at the same time.
So currently, there's no mechanism that exists for this.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, there are people run on different things. People have different priorities. They generally try to get some of them through. Yeah, in terms of any sort of form process. No, I think that's a fair statement.
That's something anybody's working on?
Sustainability is here. They can speak to that. Should they wish to? Becky, do you? Well, then we'll have Laura.
If you're attending the meeting as a member of the public service and you feel you can answer the question and the chairperson is comfortable with that, you'd be welcome to speak, but we would just ask you to come to the table because we won't be able to hear you on the, the live stream. Are all the microphones on? Okay. Okay, so the question was, sorry.
Yeah, we're just wondering what the kind of process of applying a climate lens, because like, for example, just to add a little additional context, we know that inaction will cost more in the long run. So how much are we missing the opportunity to save money in the future? Or just like not lock us into decisions that are going to negatively impact the future? So since here is such a strong recommendation on climate lens, is that being worked on at all?
The connection of the climate impact analysis of climate lens to the budget process,
Yeah,
right?
or,
Yeah.
or to any decision making generally, like, you know.
Yeah, so we are looking at that and reviewing that as part of the project planning for the climate action plan update. So there is so much content in the community energy investment roadmap that we can draw on and plug into that process, and climate lens is one of those tools that we're really looking at. It needs some more work and understanding for us of like, how does that analysis plug into our budget process and our internal processes? And we're looking at, can we use this plan update as a mechanism to get into that a bit more? We're also doing like connecting with other cities that we're part of the network, because like we're not the only city trying to figure this out. So we're really it's a really valuable network for us to draw on from these other cities. Of course, every city is a little bit different. And then we're also doing some internal training on developing our own skills. I think that's one of the exciting and challenging things about climate work, is that it touches everything. And so when, we're trying to build our own knowledge in climate change, we also have to build our knowledge in these other areas as well. So we are like starting to make those connections with our finance folks too, and our asset management, of course.
Moira, did you have anything to add to that?
Well,
No, so Moira, not Laura.
sorry.
Sorry.
I was like, oh. Thank you.
Moira, anything in public service?
No, I'm aware that Becky and her team are working on that, but we do in our admin reports now, like the admin reports, which is the decision-making process for the city. In each admin report, there is a reference to the climate action plan and what that impact is. So it is part of that process right now to apply that lens for reports that go forward. Because it is always emerging and is becoming more critical, those processes will become more sophisticated, I suppose, or applied more generally. But we do it in the admin reports, which is the decision-making system for council. As far as the budget, like understanding what's in the 24 budget related to any climate mitigation investments, I mean, we can take that away and have a look at the budget. You see, we can give you a proxy. I don't know. I wasn't in all the budget presentations, but I think we could get a pretty good estimate of that if that would be helpful for the committee.
Sure. Okay, Laura, I think.
Okay.
You're,
I have the
is
next
the
one.
floor yours?
Sure, I'll take it. So with regards to this climate action plan update, I've heard from a lot of community members that there's a fair amount of concern and tension around the urgency of climate change action needed to meet the net zero targets, and frustration with the slow speed that the existing plans are being implemented. So my question is, how will the update to the climate action plan and development of the resilience strategy accelerate action and not just be another plan to plan? Very good question.
Should I take that one as well?
If you'd like to.
The chair warmed up, okay. Yeah, that's another good question. And so the climate action plan that was developed in 2018 and approved in 19. And since that time, we've had our Winnipeg 2045 approved by council, and that gave us a new target, so that net zero emissions by 2050 meet or exceed. And so the climate action plan as it stands is no longer in line with our highest level policy. And around the same time, the community energy investment roadmap was also adopted by council, and public service has been instructed to implement it. So the existing climate action plan still has so much great stuff in it, but it's not completely aligned anymore with council direction. So that's why we're updating it. We're in a really good position where all that work as part of the community energy investment roadmap was done. And we can take that, and we're really looking at how can we really roll that up into the new climate action plan. So we're not starting from scratch at all. And the other major component of this update, and Laura was talking about it, is integrating that resilience piece. So we know that climate impacts are already happening. I mean, we had a smoky day yesterday. How can we look at what we're doing to both reduce our emissions and also make ourselves, the city, our people, our systems more resilient to the impacts of climate? So that's why we're doing the update. But to the point of updating a plan being a potential delay of action, we already have that council direction to implement the community energy investment roadmap. There's a lot of concrete numbers and targets and actions identified in there that we're already departments are looking at and integrating into their actions, and we've been touching base with them, and so that's happening while we're updating the plan. And I think it will help bring some clarity around what our climate targets are, what are our higher level climate policies.
I had someone ask me recently, so Parker Lance finally is getting approved by the city, and yet you're not saying anything about natural gas heating. It's the math. It's if you're targeting this, but you're going like that, we're building more units this way, it makes the gap bigger. Pretty basic math. We did have some discussion in the last term of council. Maybe we need to have some more again. Councillor Schreier and I think Councillor Schreier with me seconding it, but regardless, put in a motion about doing some of what other cities have done with natural gas heating bans on new builds. Vancouver's done things, New York, some other, as you know, all this stuff. But I think the idea then was to wait until one of the reports was done. That's now been done. So that might be timely to take another look at that, because otherwise, yeah, if you keep making the gap bigger, it's harder to get to your goal. It's just pretty basic stuff. So I don't know what the majority of council would say to that. And there were certainly people opposed to the idea, but it's certainly something other cities have done. So that whole idea of when do you start mandating this, or when do you just put a prohibition down on it? I think that's probably something we could look at, or at least that could come back, be renewed out of water and waste. Sure.
Yeah, we have another question / statement. As we had mentioned, the committee has asked the coordinator to explore the development of a decision-making matrix, one that includes intersectional principles like equity, justice, reconciliation, Indigenous knowledge, as a core to how the committee approaches activities or advice reported in the future. Taking a holistic approach is important in building more resilient communities because climate change related hazards and their consequences will increasingly impact the health and safety of communities and will be felt more acutely by vulnerable residents. And how can we address this, or how should this be addressed?
Speak to that.
Yeah, so I think as part of the climate action plan updates, the Office of Sustainability is doing a lot of research into equity and Indigenous knowledge and intersectionality of those issues and others. And so it's a good opportunity to have, add from our Winnipeg's sustainable development goals, how to good leadership and good governance and health and well-being and and the others, and make sure that that lens is applied in the decisions that the committee makes, as well as other considerations different groups of people, so that we're all headed in the same direction, trying to achieve climate resilience and social some inequities that the community experiences at the same time, because they're deeply connected. Definitely more to come on that.
That would be a means of trying to get some activities, motions going, some sort of process. Not what about the word matrix, I gotta say, but process at least.
Yeah, just a consistent, transparent process that the committee could use to help provide rationale for the decisions or for things that are brought forward, or which community projects to support or amplify and fulfill their mandate that way.
Okay. You? Any further questions for the coordinator? If not, I guess we need
Motion to receive the report
that
as information.
information. Casey, you can move that. Okay, thank you. All those in favor? That's approved. Operating budget, you may all recall last time we didn't yet have this because it hadn't yet, the city budget had not yet been passed, but we are now, as already noted, well past that late March. I think the city budget was passed. So what do you, Madam Coordinator?
Perfect. So there's not too much to say about the budget, but $50,000 was allocated in the multi-year budget. And if approved here per our terms of reference, then the motion will go to Standing Policy Committee, Water and Waste, and then up to Council for consideration. And just a few examples of expenses that are itemized, that we can spend money on food and transportation for meetings, their education and training opportunities, and we can request professional services like a professional facilitator or hire a consultant to conduct some research for us, and also like printing and graphics skills for communications that we might develop. So the budget lines are provided in the attachment for more detail.
Several years at the Food Council to get this kind of budget, so good to see this in place out of the gate for this committee. And that's set aside in each year of the multi-year, presumably, I think.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, that's on me. I should check that. Any questions regarding the operating budget? I guess we don't have a capital budget, so this is the budget then for the $50,000 that's been set aside. This is of course exclusive of staff complement. You need to look up at Darcy. Okay. Well, if there are no questions, then we will. Can someone please move a motion to approve the budget as presented? Thank you. All those in favor? You, that's carried.
As Laura said, that'll be a recommendation to Water and Waste.
Surprises me, but I guess that's, I mean, it's Water, Waste and Environment Committee, so I guess that's the interconnection. Okay, well, we should have more in July. I think we'll have some more agenda items. Certainly, I would hope to have the methane capture item. So if there's no further business, then Madam Clerk, do we? Okay, all right. We'll have Darcy up there virtually move adjournment. All those in favor? All right, thank you. Thanks for your time, folks. We are back on July 5th. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.